Well, welcome on everyone. We are back. Me and Justin are back. We've had a little bit of a break, a little bit of a hiatus, but we are back. We are the They Not From Philly podcast. I'm Adam from Wales and my partner. As you can see, he's rocking out the Phillies this week because the Phillies, they're down in Atlanta. Justin hates the Braves with a passion, so he's rocking his Phillies gear this week. So, just how we doing, fella? Welcome back. Let's get things going. And how's everything going?
It's like you said, had a bit of a break here. Been taking care of some stuff and working, sick, allergies and all that stuff. But we're here, we're ready to go, and Braves suck. Let's go.
Yeah. Well, they sucked last night. That was a beatdown last night, and it was a much
Yeah,
needed beatdown because that series just gone in Houston. Not Houston, sorry. Yeah, it was Houston. Yeah,
it's
not
Houston.
I'm
Yeah,
getting confused then with the Rangers. Yeah, against the Astros, and it was just like we just said, it was an absolute pitching classic from three starters from Wheeler, Christopher Sanchez, and who pitched the first game. It was
Ranger.
Ranger
Yeah,
Suarez. Them three guys all pitched fantastic. They got into
yeah,
trouble a little bit at the time of the game, but they always found a way to get out of it. And just the bats just couldn't, back them up. It's the same old story. It's this team has struggled since the end of last year, since that playoff series against the Mets, where they just go cold. And the problem is now is it's rearing its ugly head far too often than we'd like it to. They're going cold, cold, cold. Oh, last night now they have a huge hitting beat down against the Braves. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Mick Abel couldn't start because of the rain delay, so they trotted the bullpen out there. And fair play to Tanner Banks and those guys. They did their job. They held them to a
Yep.
scoreless, game. And the bats, Trey Turner was fantastic last night. Nick Castellanos was fantastic. Kyle Schwarber. I mean, if they don't extend that, man, if they got to do anything
Yeah,
in the off season, they got to keep Kyle Schwarber because we're dead without Kyle Schwarber. We just are.
yeah,
You know what I mean? With Bryce Harper's injuries, not every year, but he's getting banged up for periods at a time every year, and it doesn't help the team. He's taking longer and longer to come back from his injuries. So we've got to rely on someone like Kyle Schwarber, and thank God Schwarber is smashing the baseball the way he is this year. He's been absolutely fantastic, and I give my hats off to Trey Turner the last few games. You know what I mean? He's stepped up. He's not consistent. You know what I mean? He does go cold, but he is starting to step up a little bit. You know what I mean? And he's showing he has that power is coming. You know what I mean? Alec Bohm, he's got out of his drought. He's getting on base. He's hitting RBIs. So it's coming together. But then they have a game like that, and you just fear then tonight the bats are going to go cold again. You know what I mean?
yeah,
That's always the fear. I always dread when I wake up in the morning, and obviously the time difference over here, I can't stay up till I got to take my hats off to Dave Shaw of the UK Phillies. He watches every single Philly game as much as he can every night. He's up till 3 a.m., 4 a.m. Last night he was up till 4 a.m. because of the rain delay.
wow.
And you know what I mean? He does it, nearly every day of the week. You know what I mean? And he works a full-time job as well. So I can't do that with two kids. You know what I mean? I just by the time the kids are put to bed, I'm ready for bed myself. So for
Yeah,
me, it's I get up in the morning, I watch the Phillies game in the morning, you know what I mean? Once the kids are off and out of the house and stuff. So that's why I always people might notice that my posts and stuff
yeah,
and my tweets for our podcast are always quite hours after the games are finished because only then I'm getting a chance to get the Phillies games. It's only really the Eagles that I'll lock in and watch live. You know what I mean? I'll
yeah,
watch Phillies if they're on a bit earlier, but when they're on at 1 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning, it's impossible for me. But you know what I mean? I do watch every single game though, so you know what I mean. Nobody can say I'm not committed, but I'll watch every single game. But yeah, I've dragged on a bit now. So just how are we feeling? About the Phils. Coming up to the All-Star break now. How we've got the trade deadline fast approaching at the end of the month. So how are you feeling, fella, about the Phils so far this season?
If you would have told me that Aaron Nola would miss a little over 2 months and Bryce Harper would be out with a wrist injury and miss what's now 3 weeks, is it roughly?
Yeah, yeah,
Maybe I
nearly a
would
month.
I would say they'd be, 4 games back or more in the East. But they lead the East. They're a half game up on the Mets because the Mets got boat raced by the Pirates last night. They're it's baseball though, dude. It's crazy. It's 162 games, and it's just there are ebbs and flows. It's not like a football season. You
Yeah,
lose one game in football, and it can determine whether you make the playoffs or not. It can determine whether you have the first overall pick in the draft or the second. With baseball, it's kind of like, with the series. You just want to win series. You don't
mm,
have to win every game. And yeah, there are hot and cold streaks, but like you were going back with Turner, I think Turner's starting to really come on. People get on to him. He's not the best defensive shortstop. He's not. He's never going to be the best defensive
mm,
shortstop, but he's the best hitter on the team right now by far. And he's starting to get hot. The power's starting to come. He had 2 homers last night. I think he's up to 11 on the season. And I mean, the thing with the Phillies right now that I see is the starting pitching, man. They have to have the best starting rotation in baseball right now, hands down.
it's all.
Like with the way that Ranger has bounced back this year, uh, and he's going to be a free agent. And there's been a lot of talk on WIP. What are they going to do? What are they going to do? It's going to be tough to re-sign him, dude, because you've got Sanchez, you've got Luzardo, and I heard Jack saying something maybe Thursday or Wednesday or Thursday afternoon. I was listening. They were talking about what to do, and he said, "Well, maybe you could sell high, on Luzardo, but he's about 2 years younger than Sanchez, possibly." And sign Sanchez and get some return on Luzardo. But I don't see him doing that. But I mean, they're going to have some tough decisions to make. But like you said in earlier, the number one thing they're going to have to do is re-sign Kyle Schwarber. I mean, that's just it. This guy he is, in my opinion, the leader of the team. Everybody knows Bryce, when he's healthy, is the best player on the team, but Schwarber's just the consistent, focused leader. He's the guy. He's not a get in your face type of leader, but he's just the guy that steadies the ship. It seems like,
Yeah,
and he hits 45 home runs. So I mean, that's not. I mean, without him, where would you be right now if you're the Phillies? You would not be a half game up on first place. That's for dang sure.
yeah. We'd be in a lot of trouble without Kyle Schwarber, and like they've got to re-sign him next year. It's like last year we were talking about Zach Bourne, how important it was they would
Yeah,
need to re-sign Zach Bourne, and they did, and how he got it done, and they saw the value in finally re-signing a good linebacker, and you just got to hope Dave Dombrowski can figure that out. I mean, I know
yep,
they've talked about they've offered him a couple of deals that he hasn't quite been happy with. But I think they will. I think they've said we're trying to re-sign him. We're trying to get it done. So I think they'll find a way. But like, yeah, as far as the pitching goes, the starting pitching has just been absolutely fantastic.
yeah,
I'm a big since I've become a fan of baseball the last few years. My thing has just been watching pitching. Like I love watching great pitching. Like watching Zach Wheeler. To think we've only got 2 more years of Zach Wheeler because he come out the other day to
yeah,
he talked to Matt Gelb and he said he's going to be retiring after 2027. And he could probably go on another 2 years after 2027, but he knows his body. Maybe he's getting a bit older. He's starting to feel maybe a bit nicked up, but maybe he's powering through things we don't know about. But he's just absolutely fantastic. Even on his worst day, it's tough to come away from like a Zach Wheeler loss to say Zach Wheeler didn't pitch well in that game. You know what I mean? It's really hard to say, where he sort of went wrong, because even when he gets himself in a little bit of trouble, he finds a way out. You know what I mean? Whether
yeah,
it's getting balls grounded out or into double plays, you know what I mean, to get him out to that inning, he finds a way to do it.
yeah,
And it's there was a little bit of concern with Luzardo a few weeks back. You know what I mean? And I think that was just a case of it turned out he was tipping his pitches,
yeah,
and that was a Rob. To me, that was Rob Thompson should have got him out of there after like the second, third inning in that game. You know what I mean?
yeah,
He was off from the start of that game. You could just tell. He was tipping his pitches, but he's bounced back now. You know what I mean? He still hasn't looked, perfect, but the other night he had like 9 strikeouts, I think,
Yep.
the last time. He's just. I love Luzardo. He is like, he's a lefty. He's my guy, and I hope the Phillies can re-sign Luzardo. You know what I mean? When it comes to, is he free agent after? Is it only a
No,
1 year deal?
No, I think he's got. I think what I heard Jack talking about was they still had him under control for 2 years, and that was
Oh,
maybe
nice.
the thought of getting like if he plays really well this year, and you want to re-sign Sanchez, if Sanchez keeps up the pace that he's at, and you say you like Sanchez, and you thought you could get a real haul for Luzardo because he would after this year, I think he's still got either 1 or 2 years of
Yeah,
control. Then maybe you could get a haul for Luzardo to get some more
yeah,
younger guys in. But that was just, Jack spitballing on during the
yeah.
Jackie baseball segment Wednesday or
It's
Thursday.
it's tough with that, because like if it came down to a thing where, is it Ranger Suarez you keep, is it Luzardo? I mean, like I was saying, earlier on in the year, I wasn't like really expecting Ranger Suarez to do anything sort of
No,
special this year. I mean, there was a point of time on WIP where they thought Ranger Suarez was never going to pitch in a Phillies uniform again because of the back injury, because it
yeah,
was taking longer and longer to come back.
that
But he's come back and he hasn't missed a beat, and he's been better than ever. It's
that was
incredible.
something else they were talking about as well, weighing the odds or options, excuse me, of you've got Rangers back issues and then you've got Luzardo's shoulder and elbow issues because they
Mm,
both had issues,
yeah,
injury wise. But I mean, that's just like I said, that's further down the road. I think. I mean, what if you can get Nola back healthy and looking like he has in the past? Because Nola wasn't Nola this year. It started out as the ankle, and then I think they said he's cracked a rib or something like that. He had a
yeah,
sneezing or coughing fit, about like I had this week with all my allergies and sinuses, and he cracked a rib or something. So that's crazy. But if you get
yeah.
him
That's
back
it.
and he's like he was in the past, you've got a starting rotation that's going to be lights out, dude. But you have to wake up the bats and get more consistency out of the lineup, dude. That's
Yeah,
what's killing this team right now. You go to Houston and you allowed, I think, 5 runs. It's either 4 or 5 runs in a 3-game series. I forgot they lost 1-0, 1-0, and was it 2-1? Something
yeah,
like that.
yeah,
So you give up 4 runs. If going into that series, if you told every Phillies fan, look, going into Houston, you're going to give up 4 runs over 3 games. What do you think the outcome will be? Everybody say, we sweep Houston. We sweep Houston. You lost. You got swept. You scored 1 run in 3 games. And like I said, I know earlier I said, it's baseball. But you got to be better than that, man. And the big thing that I see with the Phils, you were talking about the upcoming trade deadline. There's a huge hole in the bottom of that lineup that's been there for a while in Rojas. You've got to do something. And I really, I mean, everybody, I've said it 100 times. I'm a huge Red Sox fan. Red Sox
mm,
are my team. But ever since I was a kid, just because I like the Eagles, I kind of adopted the Phils as my National League team. It's
mm,
different for me with baseball and football. With football, there's nothing else. I root for nobody but the Eagles, and then when the Eagles are out, when the Super Bowl's being played, I'll pick a side then. You know what I'm saying?
mm, mm.
If it's the Cowboys in the Super Bowl against the Patriots, I'm probably going to pick the Patriots 100 times out of
All
100.
day. We
You know
ain't
what I'm
rooting for
saying?
the stinking Cowboys. No
Yeah, that's
way.
what I'm saying.
Yeah,
But like in baseball, I've always kind of had 2 teams.
yeah, yeah,
But if it's the Red Sox and the Phils, I mean, I'm gonna root for the Red Sox. But Jack, he keeps hinting around that the Phils are
yeah.
sniffing around my boy Jaron Duran. And if Jaron Duran's gonna leave the Sox, I would be fine with him going to the Phils.
I've got
Kid
him. I've got
is
him on my list here. Yeah, for we'll come up to it in a bit. We'll talk about like the trade deadline and stuff. But
yeah,
I've got him on my list because I was looking up, who's sort of out there for the Phils. You know what I mean, to possibly sign, and going, quickly, like wavering off. I forgot to tell you, I watched on Netflix last week the Red Sox, not the
yeah.
Clubhouse documentary, the
Oh,
the the comeback series that was
oh,
on
the
there when
30 for
they.
30 thing.
Yeah, it was like a three. They were down 3 games
Yeah, when they were down 3 games to
to
none
the
to the Yankees in
Yankees.
the
It was
LCS in
it was all
'04.
about like the Yankees and the
Yeah.
Red Sox. And
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like I said, I've only been a baseball fan, like the last like 8 years. You know what I mean? Like I have with the Eagles, and so I didn't really know much about. I always heard about the Yankees and the Red Sox, but I didn't know how much they actually hated each
Oh
other.
yeah.
How that when I was watching it was only 3 episodes, so I binged
Yeah.
it within a few hours, and I loved it. I thought it was great. Like the pitchers back then, it was like if they got hit, if a batter got hit, they would go back. He was going back to the dugout, and he told the starting Red Sox pitcher, what was his name?
Pedro Martinez. He said,
Yeah,
"Tell me
Pedro
who you
Martinez,
want.
and his
Tell
Martinez
me
was
who
like,
you
right,
want."
who do you want? Who do you want me to get? Like, yeah, he didn't care. He was like, he was a badass guy. Like and he was a great pitcher for them as well. I gotta say, I really
Oh,
enjoyed it. It was a really good series, piece of
Pedro.
history.
Pedro was the man. Let me like with you saying you've only been watching baseball a few years. Let me take you back. Like in the All-Star game, used to they played their ass off with pride. There
Mm,
wasn't like they wanted to win the All-Star
yeah,
game. There
yeah,
there wasn't interleague play back then. You didn't play the Phils never played the Red Sox during the season. They
yeah.
didn't. The Red Sox didn't play the Braves or the Mets or nobody like that. They played American League versus American League all the way through until you got to the World Series. So
Wow.
it was true like the Red Sox against the Cardinals or whomever, but
Mm,
you didn't see those teams meet during the season. You didn't see the Yankees and the Dodgers during the season.
yeah.
That's what I miss because these guys and they didn't give a shit back in the day. Pardon my French. Like if you drilled, you know, David Ortiz. By God, when Poppy went back in that dugout, Pedro, who you want? I want A-Rod. I want Jeter. That's who he was going to get, man. And that's
Yeah,
the way those guys played back then.
yeah,
There wasn't this palling around, all this stuff, and baseball's different now. And
oh yeah,
sports are as well. Sports
yeah,
are as well. Like it's part of the reason why I hate the NBA now. Like these
yeah,
guys played their asses off back when I was a kid. Didn't miss a game. Then you got these load management suckers, and it's
yeah.
ridiculous. Don't get me at my old man screaming at the cloud rant, but I mean here I am. But
Yeah, no,
yeah,
I was.
base.
I gotta say, like, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought it was great because it was like it really showed like how baseball has changed. So, like you said,
Yep,
it's too like friendly, and it's obviously still competitive, but not. I don't think it's as competitive to the level as it was back then. Because like seeing the Yankees and the Red Sox, it was like when I was watching that, it was like even though they would have one or two different players every year, the cores of the teams were still there, and they
yep,
hated each other with a passion. You know what I mean? And the Red Sox were always like just that par below in the off season of trying to acquire that superstar free
yep,
agent that they needed to get, which is it made me think a lot about what the situation the Phillies are in at the moment. You know
yeah,
what I mean? Because it's like we missed. There was all that thing about trying to get Juan Soto last year. When we talked about it, what would we give up for Juan Soto? You know what I mean? And then he went to the Mets. So we missed out on him. I think we missed out on someone the year before as well. And so we could have got Kyle Tucker this year. You know what I mean? But the Cubs went and got him. So now it's like let's sort of like that'll like move us into this bit now where I want to talk about like you know a free agent that the Phillies signed this year, Max Kepler.
yeah,
So they signed him for $10 million, and he's come out this week now, and he's a bit, he's starting to lose his everyday playing time. At the start of the year, he was the everyday left fielder. It was no question. He was, we said to Jack when we had Jack on the pod earlier, we were big Max Kepler guys. He was disciplined to the plate. He was hitting well. You know what I mean? He was good out left field, but now he's veered off a bit. You know what I mean? He's starting to struggle. I've got his stats for you for the last 15 games. Okay, so the last 15 games, Max Kepler, he's had like 51 at bats. He scored 8 runs. He's had 11 hits, only 3 home runs, and 7 RBIs. So his OPS at the moment is 687, and his batting average is 213. So he's not, you can sort of see why Rob Thompson has sort of taken him out of starting every day, because his average is just not good at the moment. Um, he's come out and he said he was expected to be the everyday starter, but it's tough because you sign a guy for $10 million. I mean, to us, that's a hell of a lot of money. You know what I mean? If you had a guy come to work with you who's worth all this money, and he wasn't coming to work every day, you'd be like, well, why the hell have we brought him here? Why is he
Yeah.
with us? You know what I mean? So how do you sort of feel about this? Just because I'm sort of that too, I don't know how to feel about it, because to me it's like, well, yeah, you signed Max Kepler for $10 million. He had a good start of the season. He's dipping at the moment. Alec Bohm dipped at the start of the season. He didn't really get benched. He's coming back now. So Max Kepler's sort of getting different treatment to other guys on the team. But then is Rob Thompson justified in taking him out and not playing him every day and giving, like, Brandon Marsh, who's starting to get a bit hot now at left field. You know what I mean? Otto Kemp has been playing left field now, and he hit his first home run last night. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's found a little bit of power now, which is good to see. So how do you feel? Are these guys, Max Kepler, Nick Castellanos, are they right to speak out like this? Is it a sign Rob
Uh,
Thompson's losing the locker room? What's your thoughts, Jess?
as far as Castellanos, I would say no. I mean, yeah, we've seen Castellanos make some great catches in the playoffs. So, it
Mm.
seemed like 2 years in a row came running in and made those sliding catches,
Yeah,
sliding on his ass and just making a basket catch,
yeah,
and that's all fine and well. But we all know that who was it that they replaced him with? Was it Rojas that they put out there
yeah.
that game
Rojas
or
came
something?
in in the eighth inning.
Rojas can cover so much more ground in the outfield. It's like
Yeah,
he he could be run down. You could start him out at second, and Rojas would probably run him down by the time they got halfway to home or even third.
yeah,
So I mean, it's not like you're getting benched. You're just being taken out as a defensive replacement. You got to be a team player in that situation. And as for Kepler, I saw something. I'm pretty sure it was yesterday that when all that stuff came out, somebody posted like when you look at his at bats, at this point from last season to now, and then same thing. It's the same amount of at bats. He's played the same amount as he did last year with the
mm,
Twins. So I mean, it's these guys. I don't know. It's frustrating, and to me, like when you're calling out your manager like that in public, to me, you got to go to somebody personally first. And I think what got Castellanos bitch was he mouthed something to Topper in the dugout. He was
yeah,
upset that he was being taken out. Dude, I mean, keep that shit to yourself. I'm sorry.
mm,
I I don't make nowhere near that amount of money, but I've got pride in what I do. I've got pride at
mm,
work, and if my boss has something to say to me, I've told him 100 times, you pull me off to the side if I'm doing something wrong, and
yeah,
talk to me like a man. And I do the same thing with him.
mm,
And I don't care if people say, "Oh, it's different. It's baseball." No, it ain't. It's life. It's
mm,
being a man. It's being holding up your end of the deal. It's treating people how you want to be treated. So therefore, if Casty makes a bad play out in the field, does he want Topper just ripping him in the dugout in front of the whole team? No, he don't.
mm,
Nobody wants that. Topper might come up and say, "Hey man, kind of misjudged that one, but I got you." That's what a leader and a boss should do. Pick them up, and if it happens consistently, then that's what you do. I mean, a lot of people say you can't compare this to you can't compare baseball to what you do. I'm sorry you can. When it comes to things like that, like I said, if I get frustrated and aggravated on my job with my boss, I don't just start ripping him in front of the entire company or my coworkers and stuff. I'll wait and get a moment. I say, "Hey man, come over here," and I'll just kind of say, "Hey, take a look at this," where nobody knows, and I'll be like, "Hey man, I don't agree with how we're doing this. I don't." That's how you have to do it. And like I said, as far as with Kepler, same thing. If you don't like your playing time or how you're treated, don't come out in the media and cry like a 3-year-old that shit your pants on the playground about it. I'm sorry. Be a man. Take him. Say, "Hey, top man, I need more at bats." And if you've done that, if you've taken him off to the side, that still don't warrant you coming out in the media and saying, "Well, if I had more playing time, I'd be playing better." Bullshit. Be a man.
yeah,
I mean, sometimes it falls on you. Topper, when you do get your opportunities, take advantage of them. That's how I look at it. But
Yeah.
like I said, that's back to this old man yelling at the sky type of thing, I guess.
No, you're right. You're right in what you're saying. You know what I mean? It's gonna be interesting tonight because obviously, like Kepler, he had some hits last night. You know what I mean? He
Kepler
drove
got.
in a run.
We had people saying they should DFA him yesterday, and they had him hitting in the 5 hole.
I know.
I didn't agree with that either. I didn't.
Yeah,
I would have benched his ass last night. I don't know that I
that's what I was
DFA'd him,
surprised at.
but
Like
I
when I
would have
saw him,
benched him.
yeah, like when I saw him in the lineup yesterday, I was like, all right, okay, because it was like yesterday it all came out, and then he's.
Yep.
I mean, maybe it was they felt it was too late to move things around or what have you. You know what I mean? But yeah, I was surprised he was in the lineup, and then he played a decent game last night, so it'd be interesting. Will he start tonight? No, you know what I mean, or is he going to be platooned again? You know what I mean with Brand because Brandon Marsh is still playing well. So it's tough because that's the thing. Like you look at Brandon Marsh. The last couple of years, he's struggled. You know what I mean? Is and then this year his fielding has really struggled. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? He's been really inconsistent compared to Rojas. You know what I
Yep.
mean? Rojas is like you could depend on him forever. You know what I mean? But then Rojas is never going to be the hitter, a decent
Well,
hitter. It's just not.
he's
It's not him. And
he's a
that
black hole at the plate, man. Yeah.
this is this is the problem at the bottom of that lineup. When you go past Real JT Real Muto, you know what I mean,
Yeah.
and you got Brandon Marsh, you got Max Kepler, you got Rojas, you got Rafael Marchand when he comes in. He doesn't do a bad job when he covers JT,
Yeah.
but he's not a consistent hitter at the plate, and it's like, do you keep a guy like Rojas because his fielding is phenomenal, or do you look to move on from him at the trade deadline if it helps get something in? But I don't think teams are going to see value in Rojas
No.
himself. That's the problem. A team's going to see value in Brandon Marsh anymore. You know what I mean? It's getting to that thing where I don't know if his value is quite there.
That's something else a caller touched on yesterday that I found interesting. Everybody keeps calling for Justin Crawford to be called up. He's doing this. He's
Yeah.
hitting well over 300 in AAA. But if you bring him up, if you're looking at like we all know that Andrew Painter and Aiden Miller are the untouchables as far as the Phillies farm system,
Yeah.
right? So Crawford has been like in that 1B conversation as far as
Mm.
not being traded.
Yeah.
But I mean, if it goes down to okay, if we trade Crawford and something else, whatever, to be able to get Jarren Duran for the Red Sox, like I said, going back to him for instance, that's something you have to do. Jarren Duran is an all-star. He's a proven player. He's a stolen base magnet. Like this guy's one of
Yeah.
the fastest players in the daggone league. He could take over center field and have it locked down for years to come. He's young, good head on his shoulders, just a great overall kid. Like I said, I'd hate to see him leave Boston, but going to Philadelphia would be a little bit of relief for me, knowing he's not going somewhere else. But
Yeah.
you've got to do something with Rojas, man. Like I said, it's a black hole in the box. He had a 2-0 count against Hader with Trey Turner coming up behind him, and you've got no runs,
Mm.
none. And he swings at a 2-0 pitch at his eyes. At his eyes. He swung at ball three by a mile, dude. I mean, you've got to be whatever all these signs and shit are, you got to be saying if you swing here, your ass is benched for a month. There's no
Yeah.
way. I mean, Hader hadn't even been close to the striking zone on the first two pitches, and he swings at
Mm.
ball three right here. What the hell is he doing?
I know, because that's the thing. Like they sent him down like to like some winter league
Yep.
thing in the off season, and people find videos and clips and stuff on Twitter all the time, and people were constantly posting his at bats, and he looked really good. Like looked like he was coming on quite well. He was hitting, he was getting a couple of home runs here and there, and it looked like it was helping him. So I was like, Roas is looking maybe if he can bring this into the new season and get off to a good start. But it's just
It
not there.
with
His
to
batting just
me
if he does get a little thing, he falls off quite quick and it doesn't
to
come back.
me To me, with him, it's almost like, and I mean, I've told you a million times how much I hate the NBA, but like listening to WIP over the years, every offseason it was something like, "Oh, Ben Simmons is back in the lab. He's shooting. He's in the gym." It's the same thing with Rojas. They're putting these picture videos out of him hitting in these winter leagues in the Dominican, and they got pictures of him with his sleeveless shirts, and he jacked, and he look how
Yeah,
big. Hellfire, if I didn't have nothing to do but play ball and work out, I'd be jacked too. But my ass is
yeah,
48-year-old and I got a real job and I don't feel like working out at the end of a 10-hour day. You know what I'm saying? People
yeah.
might say the Justin breakout summer's coming, but that ain't happening. I ain't got
Summer
time to
of
do all
Justin.
that stuff. I'm working on my dad bod here, brother.
Yeah, that's a good dad bod. You've worked on that really well.
I ain't looking at I don't drink, but I ain't looking at the six pack. I'm carrying the keg now, brother.
Yeah, it's I don't know. That's the thing. It's like I I mean I I wouldn't be surprised if they found a way to move on from Roas, but I wouldn't be surprised if they kept him as well because I feel like they've just like sacrificed that number 9 spot in the lineup when he's
Yeah.
there because of his fielding. You know what I mean? Because he's such a good outfielder, he can make these spectacular catches, and they know they just got to sacrifice it at the plate. But you can't win a World Series and go to
No.
a because look what we see in the playoffs the last 3 years. We've gone absolutely dry, like you said, graveyard. Dead
Graveyard dead.
graveyard dead at the bats in the playoffs for the last 3 years in a row, and it's just like if Kyle Schwarber is going cold, if Castellanos is going, it's like
Yes.
you need those middle lineup, bottom lineup guys like Bryson Stott and Edmundo Sosa and Kepler and Rojas to try and step up to score runs. You know what I mean? But they all go cold as a team. That's the problem. So
That
like,
that's what I was about to say. If your lineup, if your batting order and lineup had more consistency to it, then yes, I would say you could sacrifice that 9 holes at bats for what he gives you defensively. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? But when they go cold, man, it is freaking frigid. Like just like we saw in that Houston series. A 1 run in 3 games. One
yeah,
run.
yeah.
You 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 give up 4 runs in 3 games, but you only score one. It was insane.
Yeah, I always wonder in like those type of games when you're watching like such a pitching clinic from like Wheeler, Sanchez, and Suarez, and like
Yeah,
the rest of the Lazardo, when the bats aren't coming and giving you support behind you. I wonder it's the sixth, seventh inning, the starter's gone out, and he's sitting there and he's watching the bullpen guys and they are holding their water, and then the bats come back up and just give you absolutely nothing. I always wonder, because I suppose it must be hard for starting pitchers because they got I suppose in those situations you got to keep a lot of things to yourself, but they must be thinking in their head, what the hell are these guys doing?
yeah,
I'm gonna get a loss at this game today now
yeah,
because Bryce is not hitting, because Bohm has gone cold, Turner's gone cold. I was interested, what the thoughts are in their heads, because they're standing there in the dugout, nothing they can do. You know what I mean. It must feel shit because just
oh yeah.
you're so helpless.
Well, like in that Houston, I keep going back to the Houston series, but I mean that's what's brought us to this point, I guess, with the
Yeah,
lineup. But there was one at bat I watched with the Castellanos. I'm telling you right now, if I were a starting pitcher, there is no way in hell I'd throw Castellanos a fastball
mm,
because the pitcher, I don't know who it was, literally bounced the ball to him and he swung.
yeah,
It bounced before it got to him and he swung. I'm like, I would throw this guy nothing but sliders away and curveballs that bounce. If you walk him, you ain't got to worry about him stealing a base on you because he's slower than Christmas.
yeah,
I mean, hell far, I'm slow, but Jesus, it's like last week that awesome double slide we saw on the Friday night in the City Connect jerseys. That I told James Seltzer, if the Phillies win the World Series this year, that play right there, in my opinion, will be like the Saquon reverse leap. Am I
Yeah,
wrong? I mean,
it,
that looked like something out of a damn movie, dude. Like I think there were two movies that had that same thing: Major League, and then the little kiddie film that I like, Rookie of the Year, with
yeah,
the kid that throws the baseball for the Cubs. Like,
yeah,
that was something out of a damn movie. That was awesome. So if the Phils win, that should be like on their highlight, the number one highlight reel.
yeah,
Cassidy lumbering around third, and then you've got the catcher, the freaking catcher, who's usually the slowest guy on the team, running up his ass like somebody shot
yeah,
a rocket up it,
yeah.
and just running him down two slides. That was awesome. I'm
It,
sorry,
it, it was awesome.
that was
That
amazing.
it was brilliant. Like and all the like you see like I don't know if you've seen them. You probably have like few different like edits have been around on Twitter and
Yeah,
stuff with the music and it's like you said, yeah, it was like Major League and
yeah,
it was yeah, it was just great. But like like I got this hat on today and it's the 1980 World Series and obviously I was
beautiful hat.
like 11 years before I was born in 1991. You know what I mean? So and when they won it again in 2008, I wasn't a baseball fan then. You know what I mean? And so I'll ask you this question. Like you just said, if they win the World Series, do I mean do do we really think we can even get back there? And I'm talking about like Jack. The other day on WIP, the Jack was like, "Yeah, let's do one last run. Let's go one last run with these guys, and before we got to blow it all up, because But it's like when we blow it all up, it could be like a tough few years because say Aiden Miller doesn't get moved on at the trade deadline. Justin Crawford doesn't get moved on at the trade deadline. Andrew Painter comes up and he becomes a starting pitcher. Mick Abel finds his way as a regular starting pitcher. And, say Suarez is gone or whatever. You know what I mean? And we've got all these new young guys that have come up because Kyle Schwarber's gone. Wheeler's gone. Bryce is retired or whatever. Which he's not going to be retiring yet. But there'll be a day when this team has to go very young again
Yeah,
and it's going to be a tough few years because we're going to have patience with these guys. You know what I mean? Like Jack said before, when Andrew Painter comes up, we're going to have a bit of patience because what I mean, he's had a couple of tough starts down with the Iron Pigs in the
yeah,
last 2 weeks. You know what I mean? He's given up more hits than he usually has. He's given up more home runs than he usually does. So he's starting to get welcomed to harder hitting. You know what I mean? So it's like we're gonna have to have a bit of patience because these young guys they could struggle at the start. You know what I mean? So it's then then they're not going to be going back to the World Series. But do you think is it worth now? Like Spike said the other day, pushing the chips all in at the trade deadline now, so we can go on one last run with these guys because they're all getting older. This looming free agents, Suarez, Kyle Schwarber, they're going to be free agents. We don't know if they're going to be re-signed. Is it worth going all in now at the trade deadline? Will Dombrowski do it? I'm not too sure. I don't have a lot of faith in Dave Dombrowski. I think a lot of people do anymore. You know what I mean? But
yeah.
do we do it?
I,
Is that the only way we get back to the World Series? If we make an absolute killer, all the chips in move at the deadline?
I I don't like. I think Aiden, like I said, Aiden Miller and Andrew Painter are untouchable. They wouldn't trade those guys for anything less than a Aaron Judge, in my opinion. I think
Mm,
those two guys, those are moot points. Uh, if it weren't for the starting pitching, I would say no. I don't think they're going to make it back. Dude, their starting pitching is awesome right now.
I
It
know
is
this is worth
awesome.
it.
It is the best rotation in the league, and their number two slash number three starter hasn't pitched in 2 months in Aaron Nola. So, like I said at the outset of the show, if they can get Nola back and he can be healthy, what's the rotation going to be? Who's your number two starter in a playoff series? I still think your number two guy is probably either Sanchez or Lazardo.
Yeah, it's supposed to be one
And
of them.
it's it could hell. It could, number three. Is it going to be Rangers? Is it going to be Nola? You know, it what it's the starting rotation is crazy at how good they are. So that's why I keep going back to saying, okay, yeah, if they don't win it this year, yeah, it's going to be tough because I think Cassidy has one more year on his deal. I, we heard they tried moving on from him in the offseason just like they did Bone with no luck.
Yeah.
But if Aiden Miller turns out to be what Jack believes he's going to be and what a lot of people believes he's going to be, and same thing with Painter, like you can stand to lose Ranger Suarez, let him walk in free agency, and Painter take that spot in the rotation next year, and that's going to be money you save to bring someone else in. And
Mm.
then like when you get Cassidy off the books, because Turner's going to be here, but
Yeah.
everybody keeps saying Aiden Miller could be the shortstop, so you make Miller the short, move Turner to left. I don't really see them letting up a whole lot. You could sign a really good third baseman and let Bone walk, unless
Mm.
Bone really turns a corner somehow, some
Yeah.
way. Bone as a third baseman, I don't think he's ever going to get you more than 20 home runs, and that's a shame because you a lot of times you look for power out of your first and third baseman type of guys. But if you're not hitting for power, you're looking at least for average and stuff like that. I mean, hell no. If you're hitting for 300, you're a damn phenomenon in Major League Baseball now.
Yeah.
Me and James Seltzer talked about this some last year. Like these guys are okay. They love it if somebody hits 250 and 40 home runs, but what about the guys that hit 315 home runs and they're getting on base consistently and stuff like that? Baseball's changed. I really, dude, if it would this starting rotation, anything's possible.
Yeah.
Anything is possible. If they can stay healthy and Nola can come back and you get a 75-80% Harper, yeah, they can. But they've got to do something with Rojas, man. You cannot have that black hole at the bottom of the lineup. And if they did make a deal, I would say Abel and Crawford would be part of that deal for a
Yeah.
Jaron Duran who's the guy from the White Sox, Luis Robert.
Luis
I
Robert
think
Jr. Yeah.
they talked. There was talk about trying to get him last year because there was talk about getting Crochet, and they were in on Crochet last year. Could you
Yeah.
imagine if they had Garrett Crochet? Garrett Crochet's best pitcher in the American League right now,
He's
and
fantastic. He
for
is.
my Red
Oh,
Sox. But could you imagine if they had him on this team? Now, if you had him, you wouldn't have Lazardo.
yeah.
You wouldn't have made a trade for Lazardo. But still, yet I think everybody would trade Lazardo right now for Garrett Crochet, former Tennessee Vol Garrett Crochet. We're all throughout the league now. Okay, we're everywhere. Don't get
I
me
know.
started on my Vols. I mean, we've got Christian Moore, Garrett Crochet, Jordan Beck. We've got Vols, and then we've got kids laying in wait. Drew Gilbert. I hate the damn Mets, but he's in the Mets farm system. Hopefully they'll trade him because they need some bullpen help, and they're kind of loaded in the outfield right now. But Drew Gilbert's the guy that Jackie Baseball wanted real bad a couple of years ago in the
Yeah. Yeah.
draft,
I
and
remember.
uh,
Yeah.
I've sent you that video a couple of times. That walk off a couple of years ago against Wright State, that grand slam walk off,
Yeah.
throwing that bat up in the air. Hell, far don't get me started on my Vols, baby.
Oh, there'll be more Vols pods coming out because obviously football season is fast approaching. So
Yeah, buddy.
you know what I mean. It's going to be an interesting year. So yeah. I mean, if they could get like Luis Robert Jr. Like I watched him a couple of times this year when when the MLB have got like the free game of the day and what have you. And if I've got some time and say like if it's a White Sox, I'll watch them to watch him because he's always talked about. He's a good player. He's playing
Yeah.
well this year. But then I saw the other day just that like Bryce Harper was, when they were asking him about, well, when do you think you're coming back and this and the other, and they asked him again, about would he move to the outfield and stuff, and he was like, and apparently he's like spoken to Dave Dombrowski again and like said, yeah, I'll move if you can get someone here for first base. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So I don't really know who is out there first base wise, because obviously Vlad Guerrero Jr. he's off the books now.
Oh, yeah.
Pete Alonso re-signed with the Mets.
Yeah.
So it was like I don't know. I don't really know who's really out there that they could bring in at
Well,
first base that would make an impact.
Jack kept saying bring Reese back, but the Brewers are playing good right now, and I
Yeah,
don't see the Brewers moving off of Reese.
no, they moving off
So,
from Reese Hoskins.
and that's why I keep going back to center fielders, man. I mean, if you can, and it has to be a right-handed bat too, in my
Mm,
opinion.
yeah,
Whomever you get at whatever position, if it's a first baseman, a center fielder, left fielder, whatever, it's got to be a right-handed bat because they have so many lefties.
yeah,
and that's what Bryce said. If you could get a right-handed bat in at first base, I'll move into the outfield. Now I don't know if he would move to right or left. I ain't sure about that. He's always played right for the most part, and I think he played
Yeah,
some center for the Nationals in a few games. But uh, yeah, I don't know, dude. And that's the thing. Jaron Duran's a left-handed bat,
mm,
so uh, I don't know. You, I don't know, dude. I keep going back to the starting rotation and thinking though it's mind-boggling to me, dude. Like Ranger last year, he was atrocious, and then there was Top Wells, Ranger going to the pen, and we've got
yeah.
who's the starter that they moved to the pen, the guy from the Mets that they're stuck with. Shit, I can't think of his name.
So
The starting pitcher they paid so much money to. He came from the Mets.
oh, Taiwan Walker, is it?
Taiwan,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah,
Taiwan Walker.
yeah.
They're going to start Taiwan because they pay, but they can't start Taiwan now. And Taiwan looked good out of the pen at times this year in long relief, but then his
He
last
has, yeah.
outing, he
In
got
fairness to
rocked.
him.
Yeah, he got rocked his last outing. But
Oh,
I
yeah,
mean,
that was.
the
Ugh.
I I swear, man, if they make it to the postseason, that starting rotation is going to take them a long way, dude. I
Yeah,
really believe
but
it will.
this is the problem though. It's like as good and great as this starting rotation is, and it's like you said, it's probably the best in baseball. Um, the problem is, it was happened in game one of the Mets series last year. Zach Wheeler probably
Yeah,
pitched one of the best games of his career, and all we had was a Kyle Schwarber home run, and
yeah,
we had nothing else, and he went dead, and then we went dead the rest of the series.
yeah.
So you know what I mean? The guys are going to be there in the playoffs, and they're going to be, pitching really well, hopefully, like they have been. But then the bats are going to come up, and I'm just going to be sitting there, and I'm just going to be like biting my nails, like, oh,
Madder than hell.
yeah, just like, is can I believe that Trey Turner's going to get a hit? You know what I mean? Can I believe Bryce Harper's going to do? Can I? You know what I mean? Are these going to? I just don't have the faith there for October. I just and I hate myself for that. But
so
I just
so
really not looking forward to October.
so give me your list of trade prospects that they could, besides Luis Robert and Jaron Duran, whom I love, but I would be, I'd hate it, but hell, if the Sox traded Devers, I might as well trade Duran now.
Yeah, well, obviously I've got Duran and I've got Luis Rob Jr. as outfielders, but then I've got a couple of relief pitchers that I've come across. There's a Twins relief pitcher called he's Duran as well.
Yeah,
Is it Johan Duran or
yeah,
yeah, Johan Duran? He's meant to have a really good fastball. It's meant to be like killer. And then there's another from your Red Sox.
yeah.
He's a left hand. He's a lefty. Um,
Aroldis
Araldus
Chapman.
Araldus Chapman. Yeah,
Yeah.
100 mph. His career ERA is 2.37.
Now
So
he's interesting because it seems like once he gets into the postseason, he struggles. He
right.
struggles quite a bit in the postseason. Granted, he was on that Cubs team that won the World Series, but he a lot of Phil's fans, like I'm pretty sure Ike and Spike both are dead set against getting Chapman. But I
Mm,
think if you get Duran, I'm always of the mindset I want a solid closer. I don't want a mix of guys closing the game for me. I want one
yeah.
guy that I know I can hand that ball to every night or every other night, whatever, in a safe situation and get that safe. That's what I would want. And they've talked about Kirkering maybe coming into that. And they talked to Larry Anderson about that this week. Could
Mm,
Kirkering do that? And Larry Anderson, I love LA. I don't know if you hear the LA segments on
yeah.
Wednesdays with Ike,
Yeah.
Spike, and Fritz, but I love that guy, man. He's hilarious. He tickles the shit out of me. But
Yeah. He
he
is good.
believes that Kirkering could really be a closer, but that's not what Thompson doesn't like a dead set solid closer for some reason.
I
But
know.
I think if they get Duran, I think they'll go after Chapman too to help solidify that bullpen.
Yeah.
Because I think if they get Duran, it'll be Duran, Abel, and probably Crawford and a mix of other things because you're not going to need Crawford if you've got Duran.
Yeah.
And Duran's going to lock center field down. But then, like I said, in left field, you're going to have you're going to have Kepler, and you're going to have Marsh. So three of your outfield bats are going to be left-handers.
Yeah.
But Duran, I'm telling you, man, that son bitch is quick as a hiccup. He
Mm.
is fast. I mean, he stole home twice this year already. He is crazy fast, dude. And
Mm.
Jack wants him bad. He
Yeah.
does.
Well, this is the thing when I love Jack, but when Jack wants someone, we tend to not get them. So I'm trying to like, when I listen to the guys, I'm trying not to get my hopes up too much. Like I
Yeah.
said at the beginning of the year, when Jack come on with us, it's like I'm as we're getting closer to the end of the season, I'm starting to like get anxious about October. But like I said, like beginning of the year, I'm trying just to enjoy the moments throughout this Philly season. You know what I mean? Just enjoy when they like moments like the other night when Castellanos and JT made that like, major league run around the base and scored.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like moments, I'm just trying to enjoy those moments, try not to think of what could probably is going to happen again in October. But yeah, like going back to like, the trade deadline and closers. This is the problem that Alvarado suspension has
Yeah.
caused now because
Yep.
when it first happened, it was like everyone was just like, James Seltzer was like, oh, let's just try and think of it as just like it's an injury. He's injured, it happens, you got to think. But when you've seen how much of a struggle it's been to close games out, Romano can't be relied on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're going back and forth between Kirkgren and Matt Strom. Matt Strom isn't the same
No.
pitcher he was last year. He has
No, not at
moments,
all.
but then most of the time this year he hasn't. Kirkgren has been really good the last like 10, 15 games. He's
Yep.
been fantastic. But like you said, is he that? Can he become that closer? Rob Thompson obviously doesn't, like you said, he doesn't quite feel that way. So, yeah, do they look to bringing in a genuine closer? Mason Miller, his name was being floated around, but I doubt that will happen.
I think he'd cost too much.
Yeah, yeah. So, and this is the thing, like Alvarado's going to be back in August, but
But he can't pitch in the
he
postseason.
can't
That's
pitch in the
yeah.
postseason. So
You
it's
you
like,
can't you write him off. Like you said, you count it as an injury, but hell, I don't even know I would use him when he's able to come back because he's just gonna. Well, I take that back. I would because he's going to help your bullpen get rest. He's
yeah,
going to
they're
have
going to
help
have
guys
to.
get.
Yeah.
But you can't rely on him in any situation because he's not going to be available in the postseason if you get
No.
there.
And the thing is now, we don't know, like I said, I've told you many times, like Alvarado was when I first became a Phillies fan, he was just the guy I zeroed in on and pitching.
Yeah.
He was a lefty. He was a big guy. He had attitude. There was that game against the Mets where
Yep.
he came in and he caused like a big fight and they were all come out of the dugout and they were,
Yep.
I think I was in like the first year or so he was here and I just really gravitated to Alvarado and he's been so good. And then like last year to see him, in that London game I was there and I watched him, completely collapse and then it went on from there. And this year then he found spring training, he looked fantastic. He took it into the regular season. He was looking, when it comes out, he's been using this weight loss
Yep.
hormone drug or whatever it is. And, so is that a factor into why he was pitching so well? Or was it just he made tweaks in his mechanics during the offseason? I'd like to think it was more of that. So it's going to be interesting when he comes back if he looks good or not. Because if he looks crap, then we're going to know,
Yeah.
it's because he was using that drug that he shouldn't have
He.
used. And it's going to be, and that is going to then be depleting to the bullpen because they've had enough pressure and stuff put on them. And then if you've got Alvarado coming back and you're putting him in games and he's not performing, then, like you just said, guys aren't going to be able to have rest then because guys
Yep.
are going to have Tanner Banks, Kirkgren, Strom, these guys are going to be coming in more when you're going to be wanting to rely on them in the off season. So it's not nice to think like how much of an effect the Alvarado suspension has actually had on the bullpen that was depleted anyway. You know what I mean? They've had some good moments as we've gone on throughout the year. They have good weeks where they look really good, and then there's weeks then where they just absolutely look. Yeah, this is why the bullpen is not good. So
Yeah.
it's just it's really not good.
Yeah. Like I said, like you said, I'm sorry. it's really going to tell the tale of what was working for him when he does come back. If he's still firing it in at 100, 101, you're going to know that, well, he was just taking some sort of weight loss drug. It wasn't a testosterone thing and all that. But like I said, it's going to suck because you're not really going to want to put him into any. Well, if it's going to help you win a game, yeah, sure. But
Mm,
you want to keep the guys who are used to your high leverage situations in those situations because you're going to need them for the postseason.
yeah.
Whereas Alvarado's not going to be available.
That's the thing. We talk about consistency. Orion Kirkering, he's starting to find his
Yeah.
consistency coming in the eighth inning, coming in the ninth inning to close out the game.
See,
So
that's what gets me. If okay, like I said, LA said the other day that he believed Kirkering could be an everyday type of closer.
mm,
Take the ball, you know, 2 out of every 3 days in safe situations and stuff like that. Why not try that? And if he could be your closer, your high leverage closer, getting saves when you have to have them, why not trade when you do make a deal at the deadline? Get another just regular bullpen guy. Because, like I
yeah,
said, if you're trading for a role as Chapman, that's what you're trading for, a closer. Somebody who's going to get saves. He comes in safe situations. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
That's what you're getting that guy for. But I don't know the mindset of how Topper manages the bullpen like that. That's what baffles me. Like I told you, I mean, I like a
yeah.
dead set closer.
Yeah, Rob Thompson's decisions this year with the bullpen have been quite up and down. Like he's sometimes he makes a good decision and sometimes he makes a bad decision. But yeah, that's baseball.
Yep.
But it's it's always happened this year at really important times in the games, and he's just got it wrong more than he's got it right. So but then you know what I mean. On the other flip side of it, it's like, well, he can only do what he's got with the players he has. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So it's tough. But yeah, I think we'll leave it there with the Phillies. Before we finish, WIP, we're both big fans of WIP.
Yes,
Anyone who
sir.
listens
Yes,
to us,
sir.
we love WIP. And they put out every year their top 11 Philadelphia sports athletes. So obviously, there's a bit of controversy. And of course, I can't wait for Jack and the camera to do this competition because we're rooting for our guy Jack. We love
Yes,
Joe the
sir.
camera, but Joe has got to come into him. You know what I mean? He's done some stupid things this year, and probably the most stupid thing he's done is leaving Jalen Hurts off his top 11 list. It was absolutely
Yes.
ridiculous. You
Yes.
can't put Ranger Suarez on there over Jalen Hurts just because Ranger
No.
Suarez is your favorite guy. That's like me putting Alvarado on the top 11. I'd be
Yeah.
laughed. I'd be laughed out of, I'd have my Philly sports fandom taken off me. You know what I mean? I would take it off myself. You know what I mean? I'd be stupid for doing it because the guy's suspended. So, you know what I'm saying? So I'll just go through the list, which was the final list. Obviously, Elliot had his version. Spike, Ike, Jack,
Yeah.
Joe Gilio, they all had their own versions, and they weren't too bad overall. But like the final version, and then I'll ask you just what you think of, and so I'll go from I'll do what Herb did the other day. I don't know if you heard Herb's score there, but he went 1 from
Herb
11.
Herb went all the way to Dr. J too.
Yeah, Herb was going. I thought Herb was going to go back to the 50s, and the 40s or something. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Okay.
Yeah. Oh my God, Herb is just. If I could
Herb's
get Herb,
great. I love Herb. A
yeah,
lot of people hate on Herb's calls. I swear to God, dude, it's freaking awesome. And,
nah, you
and
can't.
and the
And
afternoon show knows how to handle him.
yeah, he's perfect. And the thing is, Herb is quite a knowledgeable guy. Like he's been around a long
Yeah.
time. He knows his
Yeah.
sports. Like you know what I mean? But because of his personality, people think different of him. But it's not the case. Like the guy knows his stuff. But anyway, yeah, I'll do a Herb now. I'll start at number 1 to 11, but I'm not going back to like 1933 like Herb was trying to do.
Gotcha.
So the final list was number 1, Saquon Barkley. Number 2, the MVP Super Bowl winner Jalen Hurts. Number 3, Zach Wheeler. Number 4, Bryce Harper. 6, Lane Johnson. 7, Jalen Carter. 8, Kyle Schwarber. 9, Jordan Mailata. Number 10, Joel Embiid. That's a question of whether he should even be on the list, for my opinion. We could probably both agree with that one. He probably shouldn't be on the list because it's a write off at this point. Devontae Smith, the number 11, who I think so that's the last one. Devontae Smith,
Yeah.
number 11. I think he should be a bit higher on that list. I'm surprised he's not because he's fantastic in the playoffs and the regular
Who was
season.
who was 4 and 5 again?
4 was Bryce Harper, and
And
number 5 was AJ Brown.
okay, you skipped AJ. You
Oh,
went.
I skipped
You
5.
you said
Oh,
you
there you
said
are.
Lane. You said Lane. Okay, I was like, wait a minute, where was
Sorry,
AJ?
Lane Johnson was number 6, Jalen Carter number
Yes,
7. Yeah.
gotcha. Okay, so like with mine, I don't have it wrote down, but I remember for the most part, I had Saquon 1, but I had Wheeler and Hurts split.
Mm.
I had Hurts at 3 and Wheeler at 2, and then I think I had Lane at 4, and I want to say Jalen Carter at 5 and Harper at 6, but I didn't have a single
Mm.
sixer on the
Yeah.
list, and I
See,
had
like my
Schwarber at 11.
yeah. See, like my thing is like I can see where like Ike was coming from the other day when Ike was putting like the O line on
Yeah,
his list, and I think he had him at like between 2 and 4, something like that. I think I did. I can't quite remember what exact number it was, but it was pretty high. And I can see why he hasn't like singled out one member of the old line. As great as
yeah,
Lane Johnson is, as great as Jordan Mailata is, the whole line that last season that won the Super Bowl were
yeah,
fantastic. Even the guys that filled in. When Tyler Steen came in to fill in a couple of times,
yeah,
when Jack Driscoll came in to fill in, no one sort of missed a beat. Everyone did their job. But like the starting core, obviously Jordan Mailata, Landon Dixon, Cam Jurgens, oh God, is I've forgotten his name. The right guard that we've lost to the
Oh,
Chargers. Mackay
yeah,
Becton.
Becton,
Mackay
Becton.
Becton, yeah, big ticket.
Yeah,
And Lane Johnson. You know what I mean? They were fantastic. And like in the NFC Championship game, when Landon Dixon and Cam Jurgens, while they were battling through during that
yeah.
game, Landon Dixon's knee looked like it was going to fall
Jer-
off. You know what I mean?
Jergens didn't even play.
Yeah, but he was willing to
Yeah,
come in
he
to
was. Yeah,
that game, and then he was, and people
but
questioned then was he gonna have a good game in the Super Bowl, and he was
Dick,
fantastic.
Dickerson played the first half and Jergens played the second, didn't
Yeah, yeah,
he? In that.
and then
Okay, okay,
I
yeah,
think yeah, but I think Landon Dixon started a bit of the second half,
yep,
and Cam Jurgens was like trying to come in. He was like, "Let me go in," and he
yep,
was like, "No, no." But then they took him out then, and
yep,
Cam Jurgens came in and did a great job. You know what I mean? The old line could probably be an argument for number 2 or number 1 because you know what I mean. As good as Jalen Hurts was, in that playoff run, and Saquon Barkley, they
yeah,
were more than happy all year to give the credit of their success to that old line. You
yeah.
know what I mean? It was just fantastic. What do you think? Just do you think the old line should have been given more of a as a core in the
Yeah,
list, or do you think they
I,
were right to be separated?
I can't remember. I think I think after I voted, I heard Ike's argument, and I wish could have went back and just typed in old line in the top
Mm,
4. But
yeah.
I did put Lane at 4, I believe, and like I said, Harper was at 5 or
Mm,
6, and Jalen Carter was at 5, something like that. And I had AJ and Devontae like back to back, so I can't remember it exactly. But like I said, I didn't have a single sixer, and I had 3 Phillies, and it was Wheeler, Harper, and Schwarber, and Schwarber was 11 for me. I do know that for a fact.
yeah. So to finish off, I'm going to create a bit of a laugh here now
I,
because
I've got one more baseball thing if I can before you do.
yeah, go on, you.
So Thursday night, my nephew Brady made his second start in the rookie league out in Arizona. His first start did not fare. He did not fare so well, but it was his first start. They were only giving him 20 pitches.
Mm,
If any of y'all have listened, he's coming off of Tommy John
Tommy
surgery.
John, yeah.
Yeah, and it was going to be his first start. And my sister and brother-in-law went out there to see it, and it was the hottest day of the year out there in Arizona. And at first pitch that night, it was 118 degrees.
Oh,
He he did not fare well his first outing. I think he walked his first batter. He got a pop out, the second guy, and then he walked a couple more. He hit his pitch limit. Uh, this past Thursday, he got his second start, and they were going to give him 2 innings or 30 pitches, whatever came first. He had shoved y'all 3 pitches in the first inning, 3 outs. And
Oh,
then you can't watch it because it's rookie league. They don't have video, but you can follow it like an in-game stat tracker. But it was
yeah.
very slow. It didn't start until 9 o'clock our time, so it was 6 o'clock out in Arizona.
Mm,
But I was trying to keep up with it on my phone with this little stat thing, and it had the strike zone. It showed where the ball was and how
yeah.
fast, but it was slow and delayed. So me and my brother-in-law were freaking out because he struck out all 3 guys in the second inning. And
Nice.
my brother-in-law, he called. He's like, dude, he got 6 outs just like that. They're pulling him, but 12 pitches total, 6 outs. I said, wait a minute, he only had 3 pitches the first inning. He said, yeah. I said, so did he have an immaculate inning, the second inning? He said, yeah, he did. So
Wow.
we were of the belief he had an immaculate inning, but my brother-in-law looked at it wrong. He had 12 pitches in the second inning, so he did not have an immaculate inning like I had told some folks.
Mm.
But that's my brother-in-law's fault. He's the one told me the pitch total, and I was texting madly like, "Hey, my nephew just had an immaculate inning," but he did. He struck out all 3 guys in the second inning. Fastball topping out at 98. ERA dropped significantly. It was pretty bad after that first start. I reckon I didn't see
Oh,
it, but it was
nice.
pretty high. But I had texted him before the game and told him I was out there mowing the yard, and I knew he was going to pitch that night because I talked to my sister and brother-in-law and everything. And I told him, I said, "Bud, just go out there and give them hell." I said, "It's the
Yeah,
same game you've been playing since you were 5 years old. It ain't changed." I said, "It
yeah.
just ain't home, and it's hotter than I'll get out there. But just go
Oh,
give them hell." He
oh,
said,
nice.
"I'll do it." And I told him, I said, "I love you. Take care." And he said, "I love you." And by God, he went out there and he gave them hell. He busted their ass. You know, two innings, no runners on, no nothing. Struck out 3 out of 6 batters. Proud of you, bud.
Oh, nice. Well done, Brady. That was fantastic. Well done, man. Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know how to even say this now. Obviously, we're not basketball. We're not basketball guys much on
No,
this show. Obviously, I am a Sixers fan, but the Sixers have been just absolutely awful to try and like wrap your head around the last couple of years with Joel Embiid's mountain knee injuries and surgeries, and the team just like every big piece, James Harden, Paul George, they bring in just absolute disasters. But they made a couple of good draft picks, so we seem to think at the moment. So Joel Embiid, he was on the top 11 list. Probably shouldn't have been on the top 11 because do we think he does anything next year? Just is it worth investing back in the Sixers next year?
I I wouldn't because I'm not
No,
a big
I know
Embiid
you're not,
guy,
but for
man.
me, is it
Uh,
worth me investing back in the Sixers next year?
It's tough because I mean that's a lot of games and a lot of time invested. I don't
Yeah.
I don't like to tell people how to invest their time or what to like and what not to like. But I would say Joel has bit you in the ass enough through your
Yeah.
fandom. But you got to give it one more go. I mean, they're bringing back Paul George. They got VJ Edgecombe, this top 3
Mm,
pick. Uh, you got Maxey coming back. You got McCain coming back off his injury.
mm,
Have a little hope. I mean, hope never killed nobody. And the East is going to be wide open, like they said on the
yeah.
afternoon show. Halliburton's out. A lot of injuries out in the East.
Jason Tatum.
Which, yeah, Tatum's out. All these freak Achilles injuries, and I do think there's something to that where these guys wear these low top shoes all the time.
Mm,
Basketball players always wore high tops back in my day.
yeah.
But old man yelling at the sky again. But still, yet.
well,
Uh,
well, I think that's a good way to end it. I've
Hope
actually
never
managed to
hurt
get.
nobody, brother. Hope never
No,
hurt
I
nobody.
never thought I'd get Justin to say something positive about basketball, especially the NBA. So I've done something I didn't think I
Tennessee
could do.
basketball, I will. Tennessee basketball, I will.
Tennessee basketball, yeah. Well, we leave it there for this week. Thanks, Just, for another great show. It was great to get back together this week and get
Yes,
a
sir.
pod
Yes,
going.
sir.
So, thanks everyone. Even if it's just one person that watches us, we really appreciate it. So, any
Hey,
subscribe to our YouTube channel. We do this just to get our moans and our groans and our
Yes.
grievances and our
Just
yelling
to
when
talk
just to
just
talk
to be able to
ball.
talk sports with one
Yeah,
another, man.
yeah.
It's a beautiful thing. Technology can be a horrible thing.
Yeah,
Social media can be a horrible thing. But you know what? Social media brought me here in Tennessee together with Adam in Wales, my
yeah,
brother from another mother. I mean, it's social media has brought me so many people in my life that I
yeah,
will never. I mean, it is amazing. Like Richie in the Northeast, Mike in New York, Adam, Drew. I hate to name people, but
yeah,
like the damn guys at WIP, man, James,
yeah,
Jack, Elliot.
yeah,
Just social media has done so much good for me in my sports life since basically
yeah,
2016, 17, roughly. I, I despise it sometimes too, but I can never fully hate it because it's brought me people that I
yeah,
truly enjoy
yeah.
talking to and love, man.
And
And
like we said, and like Philly sports has such a great fan base that
yes,
I mean,
yes,
everyone is just constantly connected, and because we just want the best for the Eagles, and
yep,
we want the best for the Phillies and the Flyers, Sixers, and
yeah.
whatever, whatever we
We
want,
might,
but
we might puck it up with Broads one day, man.
yeah,
We might puck it up.
I'm gonna have to find a way to get Broads on you. I've spoken to him a couple of times. I'm gonna have to try and get Broads on us. I'm sure he will
Hell yeah.
one day. I'll have to get messaging him soon. But yeah, thanks everyone. We are the Not From Philly podcast. Catch us on YouTube, like, follow, and subscribe, and we'll see y'all next time. Go Birds!
Love y'all, man.